they have their moments of getting upset, and I mean, I can't really begrudge anybody their feelings. So, but I do have to say that the overwhelming majority of our experience with the fandom has been really positive. When we come to these shows, we get, wow, I got really loud all of a sudden. When we come to these shows, we get tons and tons of love. We get tons and tons of love online and in person, and it's been great. I mean, and not to mention, there's so much creativity in our fandom. I mean, we have so many amazing cosplayers. We have so many amazing artists and writers. It's great. It's great. I love it. I love how creative the show has inspired people to be.
And I also drew like the character SHIRO, and I still have it in my notebook from 3 years ago.
Are you gonna show it to me?
I don't have it right now.
I'm gonna see it.
I don't like
one day. That's okay. It's okay. I know it's personal. But thank you for being a fan, and thank you for drawing our boy, man. It's awesome. Yeah. Who's next? You with the green phone. Oh wait, no. You know, I don't control it, so I'm just gonna. I'm at your whim. Yes.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. So, you know that Halloween Horror Nights has started recently?
Yes.
How would SHIRO be during the event?
Considering he has PTSD, it's kind of but, I mean, unless there's like gore stuff there, it probably wouldn't be that big of a deal. He'd probably dig it. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't like Halloween? Who doesn't like getting scared and doing all that? I think it's great.
Thank you.
I think he'd love it. I think the whole crew would love it. I wish there was an episode where they all went to horror nights. It'd be amazing.
Desperately.
Yes.
All right, so first of all, number one, I love your character and I love you as a voice actor.
Thank
Part
you.
of the reason that SHIRO is my favorite character is how well you play him.
Thank you.
Number two, I don't know how true this is. I heard somewhere that you also voice Tim from Brain Pop. I don't know about that.
No, that's 100% not true, and I didn't even know what that was until like people were asking me if I was Tim on Brain Pop, and oh man, I had to look it up because I didn't want to be getting the credit for somebody else's work. So I think his name, I know his last name is Watanabe, and I think his first name is Mike. I think it's Mike Watanabe, and he's the guy that actually wrote the series and produced it, and he's the voice of Tim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now that's...
Yes, that's it. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
Sorry, I'm like a really big fan of it.
It's okay. Thank you for coming.
What would SHIRO's like first meal back on Earth be?
Ooh. A big pizza. All to himself. Just the whole thing. Extra large.
Like, what about the toppings?
Probably lots of meats. I'm assuming he likes the same kind of pizza that I like. I'm not one to put veggies on my pizza. I also kind of headcanon SHIRO as somebody that can't cook to save his life. So, you know, in terms of like taste palette of other things that aren't the traditional pizza things on pizza, you know, it's probably not really his bag. Yeah. A big pizza, massive one, just huge. You've seen those guns, he's gotta feed them. Or that gun, sorry.
Hi.
Too soon? Hi.
Opinions on Adam?
I think that there is only so much that the show can show. And I know that it's been a point of contention for a lot of the fandom, I understand. And I can't really judge the anger of people who wanted to see something different because I know how frustrated people are with the lack of LGBT representation in media. I agree with their frustration. And again, like, I am not LGBT, those struggles have never been my struggles, so I don't really feel as though I have a place to judge anybody's feelings on it. I really feel like all I can do is listen to what people have to say. That being said, like, I think that from the beginning they've stated that it was really more to show SHIRO's backstory and wasn't necessarily going to be something that was, I mean, he left. He left with the notion that he was probably never going to see him again. And it's sad. I mean, it is sad, but this is something that's had years of time in between for them to both kind of go their separate ways. And yeah, there still are some there are obviously feelings. I mean, when you love somebody, that doesn't just go away, even with time. But they have had a lot of time apart. I mean, that's a big question. Could you be any more specific in terms of? Because I mean, that could be a whole panel in itself. I'd be talking here for hours.
Well, I didn't really have any answer specifically in mind, but I
Sure.
think that was a lot deeper than I was thinking I was going to answer for. I was like,
I mean, I could talk about it a lot, and I mean, I've had a lot of people asking me questions about, what do you? It's just a lot of questions. I really don't. I could go so many ways on that because I've thought a lot about it, and I've thought a lot about how I think Shiro would feel about it, and again, what I keep coming back to is that he still left. He knew that there was a possibility that the relationship would be over if he left. But the other wrinkle that I think a lot of people don't really think about is the fact that he was already, everybody's like caught up, right? Because you're all gonna get some massive spoilers. He had a degenerative disease that was going to kill him. And I mean, my grandmother-in-law died of dementia. I've been around people that have had something debilitating that was eventually gonna take their life. And especially with people who are able to express it mentally before if it's not dementia and they've already gone. A lot of them have just expressed to me that they didn't really want to see the person that they loved seeing them fall apart and have to take care of them through all of that and all of that. And I mean, when has Shiro ever made his burdens anybody else's burdens? He really internalizes everything and deals with it himself and tries not to make it somebody else's problem to have to deal with. And that isn't necessarily the best approach. Just looking out at it from 2020, I guess God vision, because we're just kind of seeing everything. But I mean, I definitely understand that. That's what I think of. That's what I think of when I think of why he still left, and even if this was such an important relationship to him, why in my head he didn't want him to see him fall apart. And he had this. And this was what he's going to do. He went off assuming that he was going to die. It's sad. It's super sad. And when he comes back, like, I've seen some people saying, oh, he didn't cry, he didn't do this. And it's like, well, there's really only so much you can show on the show. It's 22 minutes in an episode. And the other thing was, it's like, when they showed him, he's at the memorial, he's standing right in front of his CO. Again, he's never made his internal struggles anybody else's struggle, and I couldn't see him having a full-on breakdown in front of the guy that strapped him to a table and was like, his CO. Like that's just not Shiro. He'd be a lot more private about how he expresses that. I've talked about that for a long time, and I don't know how much I've answered, or if I can tons more questions, or all in all, my opinions on Adam is that the whole situation is heartbreaking. It really is, because it's two people who loved each other that had so many other things essentially pulling them apart, and it never really materialized again. And that's life. I mean, that happens in any relationship. I mean, some work out, some don't. Whether or not you would have wanted them to with everything that you had, I feel like it's a very realistic depiction of an adult relationship. They don't always work out. They're not always happy. There's a lot of sadness sometimes.
Hi. Oh, wow.
Hi. It is loud.
Yeah. So, my question is, it's along with Voltron series, the D&D-esque episode.
Yes.
How much did you enjoy kind of playing that out? And also, do you play or have you played D&D?
I've never played D&D. I would love to, because it seems like a lot of fun, and I have a lot of friends that play it. A lot of friends on Critical Role. And I played WoW. I was a huge WoW head for a really, really long time. Like, almost to the point where it became detrimental to my life. I was really, really into it. And I, like Shiro always plays a paladin, I would always play a druid. And if I ever went back to it, I would still play a druid, because that's what I like. And the other classes kind of get boring to me after a while. Like, I like with the druid, you can change your spec, change your gear, you're doing a totally different thing. It's like, there's just a lot to do. But I loved that episode because it's one of the only episodes where you really see Shiro having fun. And granted, it's Kuran, but he still believes he's Shiro. He has all the memories in his head from the time. He has all of Shiro's memories up until then. So he really believes he's Shiro. He, for all intents and purposes, is kind of Shiro, and he's having a good time. And he found something that he really enjoyed, and he's still, getting to do the team stuff with everybody else. But you don't really see Shiro get to let loose a lot. And you don't really see him get to have a good time. He goes through a lot, and I think that's one of the things I love the most about it, was just seeing him happy, seeing him enjoying himself.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey.
I guess kind of related to that, like if you had to rank maybe your top 3 favorite episodes to voice, like just the ones, either if it was from a dramatic perspective or you felt you really emoted a lot of that episode,
Sure.
that were hard to think about. So what would your top 3 be?
I'd say one of them would be Monsters and Mana. I love that episode. Another one would be the Black Paladins. The Black Paladins, I mean, it's hard. It's a heartbreaking episode, but it is still, it's such a pivotal episode, and it's just so cinematically beautiful, and they have so many amazing moments in there. Like that definitely was one of them. And then it's really hard to pick a third, because I love everything in the show, but I'd say it's either somewhere in between where he escapes, where Kuran escapes with the long hair and all that, and just his whole ordeal to get out of that. That's a cool episode for Shiro. Or maybe Crystal Venom, where the castle's taken over, and he really kind of has his PTSD freak out with Sendak. Or there's another one. I can't remember. Oh, season 7, where like he gets to be captain. Like it's like it all comes full circle. He gets his win. He's standing there, and everybody's looking to him to lead. And when everything's burning down around everybody's looking to him to do it. I love it. It makes me happy.
Thank you.
So I have 2 questions.
Yes.
If that's all right. The first question is for Josh Keaton, like as you.
All right, sweet.
Just in case.
Hold on, let me get him.
All right, now that
Hey, how's it going?
So if you had to choose based on your personality, what paladin of which line would you have?
I love playing Shiro. I wish that I could say that I would be like him in every facet of my life, but I'm not. I'm definitely not. I wouldn't say I'm quite as brave as Shiro. There's a lot that I don't measure up in terms of with Shiro, but I'd say, I don't know. I feel closer to Lance. I've always kind of been, because again, I was not the cool kid in high school. I did not grow up as a cool kid. I got bullied a lot when I was younger. I was shorter than everybody. It was just it wasn't, I always had a lot of insecurities going into pretty much everything. And I covered that up with humor and just being silly and making dumb jokes and trying to make people laugh. And that's probably why Spidey kind of came as such it was an easy shoe to step into. And I feel not just the humor part, but the insecurities and the struggles of feeling like you don't belong, and who's really my friend and all of that. I get that. That was my whole teenage life, and I definitely feel a kinship with Lance in that sense, for sure, because I see a lot of shared identification for just how we grew up. And also Latin family. I'm Latino. My mother's Peruvian, and so there's that extended family and the cooking and the grandparents and the tios and the tias and the abuelos and all of that. But I definitely say Lance. Not sure which lion, whether it would be the blue or the red, but I'd say as a paladin, that's probably who I'm closer to personality-wise, I guess.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
The other one is, not a lot of people know that you actually voiced Hercules in the
Yes.
Disney.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if we could get like a little bit of Go the Distance.
Yes. I am on my way. I can. Oh, so let me start that again.
Take 2.
Yes. I'll start it again. I have often dreamed of a far-off place where a great warm welcome will be waiting for me, where the crowds will cheer when they see my face, and a voice keeps saying, this is where I'm meant to be. I hope I do. I will find my way. I can go the distance. I'll be there someday. If I can be strong, I know every mile will be worth my while. I would go most anywhere to feel like I belong.
Yeah.
It's so hard to sing when you've been talking all day. Voice is all in a weird place. And, yeah.
Hi. I was wondering, how did you get into voice acting?
I actually got into voice acting through on-camera acting. I was a child actor and did commercials and things like that. And they don't really hire, or at that time they didn't really hire a lot of children to do voice acting because they would just hire adults because they're work longer hours, easier to direct, all of that. But there were certain things that still wanted to have a kid. One of those was Peanuts, the Charlie Brown stuff. So I was Linus in a Peanuts special and like a couple of commercials. And that was really my first voiceover thing. And then it kind of fell off for a little while just because, again, they didn't really hire a lot of kids, and it wasn't really until, I did some things here and there. I did the Back to the Future animated series. I was one of Doc Brown's kids in that. I was in Peter Pan and the Pirates. But, oh, hello. But it wasn't until I was in Hercules that I got a voiceover, just a dedicated voiceover agent that only handled voiceover and started auditioning for all kinds of other things. And that's pretty much how I came up in it. It's a lot different now. You don't really have to have an agent to put out content. You can have your own channel on YouTube, you could podcast, you could do a lot of stuff and still grow a really big audience. A friend of mine actually did that. His name's John Bailey, and he is the voice of the Honest Trailers. And he was a guy that I just knew from cons. Like, I would just see him at cons, and he would be interviewing people at their tables and kind of doing the shtick with the puppet where he would, I don't know if anybody remembers Triumph, the insult dog. So he had one that was like a robot, and so he would do it as a robot dog, and that's just how I remembered him. And he just kept doing more and more stuff and getting more and more people on his channel, and then he did Honest Trailers and kept doing more and more, and now he's like half the time in LA. It's like he works with people I work with, and like I haven't worked with him yet, but I mean we're working on the same stuff. So he's managed to take his YouTube following and just going to cons and his own content and parlay it into a union voiceover career. So there's really there are far fewer barriers than there were before. Before you had to know somebody, you had to have an agent, you had to live in LA. There was a lot that you had to do before you even had a shot. And a lot of that's kind of being erased now. Yeah.
Hi again.
Hey.
I'm not gonna cry this time, but thanks. So you probably get this a lot, but if Shiro was any type of meat, what meat would he be?
Oh, beef.
Like what?
He sure ain't chicken. Let me see. He's lean, so it wouldn't be like a ribeye. Definitely wouldn't be ground beef.
Pork chops. Chuleta.
No, but that's not beef. That's pork.
Chuleta.
Chuleta, maybe. I mean steak, but I'd say because ribeye's a steak, but again, he doesn't have that marbling. I'd say, probably like a fillet. Like it's lean, you know. It's not too tough. I mean, it's tough, but no, fillet's not tough though. I don't know, because I'm really starting to like think about steak here. Yeah, like a porterhouse. No, porterhouse, yeah. Because then you got both, right? You got the filet. Yeah, perfect. You got the porterhouse because it's big, it's beefy, and it's got that tender filet mignon on the side. Thank you. There you go. I like these questions.
Hi again.
Hi.
Sorry. That's a hard one to follow.
Unique questions are always hard to follow.
Let's hear it from my best friend. Anyways, I had a question. We talked earlier that I said that you ended up voicing out a lot of the characters that I watched when I was younger, from Young Hercules and Jack in Transformers Prime. And I was curious, how do you go from voicing those characters who are going through their own journey? Because, Hercules had to grow into being a hero. Jack kind of grew into being the oldest brother of 3 kids in Transformers Prime. What was it like transitioning to Shiro, who becomes that person behind the other kids, trying to push them into their own roles and into their own?
Well, it's funny because as an actor, we prepare based on what we've experienced and what we've learned from watching other people experience things. And sometimes, your life kind of hands you this serendipitous moment where it matches up exactly with what you're playing. And right around when I was recording Voltron, starting it out, was right around when I had just had kids. And I mean, I think I talked about it in some early interviews, and that's not really where Space Dad came from. That's where, Space Dad actually came from Green Lantern. That's where people first started calling me Space Dad, was on Green Lantern, the animated series.
This is where Earth Dad came from.
But I mean, that's where that came from. And then, but I talked about how having kids made me see a lot of things in a totally different way. It made me have to very quickly be much less selfish. I've never really been a completely selfish person. Everybody is a little bit, but whatever selfishness that I still had, I had to kind of get rid of. But just for the kids, because you gotta teach them. It's they're gonna be doing their own thing. They're gonna be butting heads with you all the time because they just don't know. They don't know what's acceptable, what's right, what's wrong. You have to teach them all that. But you love them so much that it's okay. You are willing to give that up about yourself, or change yourself, or work on yourself so that you can be better for them, so that you can show them what the right thing to do is. And that's Shiro. It's crazy that if I had gotten the role, or maybe I wouldn't have gotten the role 2 years earlier, maybe I wouldn't have had that perspective in my life yet to really be able to make that real. Because if it's not real to you, you have to find some way to make it real to you. And whether that be watching somebody else in the situation, doing character research and seeing what other people have been through, or what other stories, reading, whatever. But sometimes it's real to you, and this, it kind of was. I mean, the situation's not exactly the same. I mean, they're not really Shiro's children, but he still is going to, as a leader, kind of serve that same function. Somebody that is still going to be pushing them to be better, and having to, at the same time, work on himself, because he's got to be there for them. It's just weird how it all worked out,
Awesome. Thank you, Josh. I
Yeah,
appreciate
you're
it.
welcome.
All right, so while we're on the Space Dad topic,
Yes.
do you have a running list of the Twitters that you have with the fantastic Space Dad jokes? Because when you do the different names for things, that's the highlight of my show. It reminds me of my husband. It just cracks me up.
Really That's another thing. Hey, I love your shirt. Is it the one that does the thing? Yeah, I have that shirt.
He wanted me to wear it, but I was like, yeah, I think you need to wear it so you can.
No, it's a great shirt. It's a great shirt. I did the You're Welcome video in that shirt.
Yeah.
Not that exact shirt, but I'm sorry. It was. So you're talking about the hashtags and all?
Oh
that?
yeah. I love it when you come.
I just go and see what's trending. I just go on my trending. I follow some hashtag accounts, so then it kind of peppers it in with that. And whenever I see one that's fun, I'm just like, all right, what can I throw in on there? Kind of keeps the brain fresh,
They're fantastic. Please.
Thank you. Thank you so much. There have been some times where I've seen some things trending that weren't joke hashtags that I just assumed were because they look kind of funny, and then I'll just go in and start barging into somebody's hashtag and making dad jokes.
That's what my husband just said. He's like, that is the pinnacle of dad jokes. So high five from far. That's
Yes.
fantastic.
Sweet.
identities he's had to play. You know,
Yeah.
He's been champion. You know, he has to be the head of Voltron. You know, the PTSD struggles. Now the captain of Atlas.
Yeah.
As an actor, how would you like to see him kind of reconcile all those different personalities and identities he's had to wear?
Well, except for Sven,
Oh.
they kind of are all him. I mean, they're just him at different stages of his life. And I guess that's, the actor part would be seeing seeing how that new place in his life would affect his future actions, or what he does in that scene. So I guess it would just be kind of imagining what if he's the champion, if he's in the ring, kind of putting yourself in that headspace and thinking of the events that he might have been going through right at that time, and then applying that to whatever the situation of the scene is. Or if he's, you know, I wouldn't say that it's, the time that I would have to say that I actually had to really think about that, like separate identities, was when we were dealing with Kuran, and when it was Clone Shiro, but he still thought he was Shiro, but there were certain things that, like that, again, it's really just having to kind of game it out in your head, having a headcanon everything, and really just ask yourself a bunch of questions and kind of almost make mental outlines of where he is in his head at that time, and what's going on around him, and how is this going to affect him at this stage versus at this stage. And the more you do that, you start to kind of, I don't want to say think like the character, but you start to kind of, because you have so many, because you've been thinking about what his head is going to be doing for so long, you kind of do start to predict, okay, well, he would probably do this, he'd probably be like this, or this is probably what would happen, this is what he would think in this situation. So yeah, I guess in a way, after doing it a lot, you do start to kind of think as the character would think. And then with Sven, that was a whole different thing.
Bring back Sven.
Yes. Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm pretty awesome.
Awesome.
So I've been a Voltron fan since the 70s.
Oh, wow.
So I followed all the way through, and I actually run a diversity organization that's geek. So we do a lot of work on Voltron because, well, I'm a little biased. Just saying. And by the way, I'm a huge Critical Role fan, so you just made me love you more. I'm seeing them live in New York, so I'm freaking out right now. Yay. I brought my kids both into the fold, and they're both huge fans at this point. Love you all. Formed a very good friendship with Bex. She's an amazing human being, isn't she?
She's an incredibly.
So I wanted to ask a question and see how much license you had in making this decision, or if the writers kind of guided you specifically. When Shiro fully accepts the quintessence and he forms Atlas. My understanding, and that's, I think maybe it might be up to us as the audience to understand how, from your perspective and the writer's perspective, was he able to do that?
Okay, I thought about this actually. He has this arm now, which is powered by the crystal that was in Allura's crown, which is a Celtean crystal. Now we've seen that crystal can, in larger forms, power an entire ship, a massive, massive ship. And we've also seen that Allura has learned so much about Altean alchemy on Orion that we still really haven't seen the massive potential of what's possible from that. We've had hints of it. And I mean, I have to think about it this way. I'm like, if there's so many, if she's able to, or taking even Allura out of it, if that alchemy is able to take somebody's living spirit out of something and put it into something else, then who's to say that that same alchemy can't transmute some element into some other element, or some material into some other material? There's so much about Altean alchemy that hasn't even really been explored yet.
I think I felt like the quintessence to some extent, because he had been so fully realized, because he had been the Black Lion for so long, that maybe he had become something so much more than what he had any concept of.
It's quite possible, because his physical form was obliterated, it was gone. He's already transformed into something. He's already transformed into an essence. And at that point, like, who knows? Who knows what happened to him in that lion headspace, or in that astral plane? Who knows what he might have come into contact with, or what abilities he might have realized, and again, a lot of it might just be that might just be his connection to the crystal. He might have been able to get a closer connection, I guess, to that type of stuff, since he was already in that plane. We don't know.
I like to think that when you've gone through so much difficulty and struggle, I tell the kids that, hey, he manifested all of that because he'd been through everything there was to go
It's
through.
quite possible.
So,
Because once you have shed a physical form, he's back in one now, but he was living without it. The possibilities are kind of endless. They really are.
so then my head canon works then.
Yes, and in some reality, your head canon is canon. So, everyone's reality. Yeah. Yes, thank you, Slav.
Hi.
Hi.
So I have two questions, one for Josh and one for Shiro.
Okay.
Okay, for Shiro. Now he's back on Earth. Where's the first place he's going to take a vacation? Because Space Dad needs a vacation.
Well, I'm not really sure it's still even time for vacation yet. They still got a pretty weird fight that just finished that they're gonna have to figure out now.
But after?
So after all of that, man, I don't know if this would be Shiro, but I want to see everybody have a beach episode. I would love that. I would love to see everybody on the beach, just having a good time. I don't necessarily want to tip my hand on that too much, because there might be some stuff.
And my question for you is, since you played young Hercules, who, if you had a god as your parent, who would you want as your godly parent?
That's a really good question. Could it be a demigod? Could I choose Maui? Because he seems like he'd be so much fun to hang out with. It would be so much fun.
He's a friend of mine.
Yeah, we've sung the song together. Not really, but kind of. Maui, yeah. But like my brother or something, because I don't think that he has a dad. No. Yeah. Man, as a parent, I don't know. Maybe Zeus. Why not Zeus? He's like the head of all. Yeah, he's the king. Why not? Yeah.
Hi, so I'm a huge Metal Gear fan, so I really wanted to know, playing, if you've gone through Shiro and you played the young Hercules, so what was it like playing, also, a super serious character, a very wounded, person? I wanted to know about that.
Well, it's interesting because that was before they really started doing a lot of, like sessions in video games where they actually had people acting together. So this was one of those ones where I really just went in there and I had just my lines on a piece of paper and I just had to do it. And it was just different. There wasn't, I didn't really know a whole lot about Metal Gear going into it. And so it was really more, I guess they gave me some kind of indication on kind of how they wanted him to be in the audition. They wanted him to be cocky. They wanted him to, they kind of gave me the basic story parameters. And that's just kind of what I came up with. There wasn't really a whole lot of push-pull on, we want him to be more like this, or can you try it this way? It's just that's kind of what came out, and that's what we went with. I just figured, he's cocky. For you to take revolvers into a fight with much more advanced weaponry and love it, and love the fact that you run out of bullets and have to reload, and that's exciting to you, it's probably because you think you're way more here than you are. And so, yeah, that's pretty much how it came out.
Thank you.
Favor make this training happen.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
So we know Shiro is a pretty serious character, but he also has his fun moments, like when he's blam, blam, blam.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, if the Paladins had a dance battle, would Shiro participate, and would he be competitive and kick everyone's ass, or?
I want to believe that Shiro can break dance. like a true b-boy, like alphas and flares and head spins, and like he probably had a piece of cardboard that he would carry around for his hand spins. That's what I like to play.
Yeah, 'cause
So yes, I absolutely.
I asked Jeremy this question a couple of months ago, and he said that Lance would smoke the competition, which of course he said that. And he also said that SHIRO just wouldn't participate at all. So maybe
That's what SHIRO would like Lance to think.
maybe you can set Jeremy straight.
Pass back down. Wait. Yay. You're great.
Such fun questions. These are all like different questions than I usually get too. These are great.
Okay.
Hi.
Hello. So here's a fun question.
All right.
So if you were to pair, if you were to ship anyone with SHIRO.
I don't.
No.
I don't.
Headcanon.
I don't ship anything.
No.
Nope.
If you had to.
I don't.
You passing off your question to us. Oh, okay, the TV.
Okay, so I have a request.
Okay.
Me and my sister kind of thought of this at the same time. Can you say form Voltron?
Yeah. Just like
Yeah.
me or
Yeah, as
SHIRO. Okay.
Yeah.
Because with me, it's probably just not gonna be. Form Voltron.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Got about 5 minutes left.
5 minutes.
5 minutes.
Hi.
Hi.
Okay. So, have you ever watched the original Voltron?
Yeah, of course.
Really?
Yeah, I watched it when I was a kid. I mean, I was really little. I don't remember. I didn't really understand a lot of the events that were happening in the show when I watched it. But I mean, I love the battles. I love the transformations. I loved all the visuals. I was into the lions. Yeah, I definitely watched it growing up.
And have you read any Spider-Man comics?
Of course. Yes. That was like my favorite. Still is my favorite superhero. Like I grew up reading Spider-Man comics. He's my favorite. He's out of in terms of comic book heroes. He's my favorite, without a doubt. Hi.
So I have 2 questions.
Okay.
First one's a Spider-Man question.
Oh, sweet.
Who's your favorite movie Spider-Man?
I can't really give an answer to that yet because I haven't seen Tom Holland's stuff yet. And the reason being because I've had probably about, she'll be 5 in October. So I've had almost 5 years of very little sleep. And about 5 years of just being behind on everything. And I didn't want to watch those until I caught up on the rest of the Marvel stuff because I know that everything intertwines and I don't want to like spoiler myself with this before I've seen this. And I was like 10 movies behind. So I finally caught up on all of the X-Men stuff, finally caught up on all the Wolverine stuff, finally caught up on all of the Iron Man stuff. Still have to see like the last Cap. I have a couple of Avengers things I have to see, and then I have to see Tom Holland's stuff. So I have, it's in the process, but I can't really, from what I've seen and from what I've heard, it seems as though the new Tom Holland stuff is like probably closer in terms of vibe to Spectacular Spider-Man, which makes me happy, so I'll probably like his the most. But yeah, I mean, I liked Garfield. I liked Tobey as Peter. I think that I liked him as Peter more than I liked him as Spider-Man. Funnily enough, I think that Topher Grace, who was Eddie Brock in the third one, would have been a better Spider-Man. I think that he is like Eric Foreman?
Yeah.
Is Peter Parker. Like, that's Peter Parker. And he's hilarious. Like he would have wiped the floor with the quips. Like he would have been awesome. But that's just me thinking and spitballing. But I don't dislike what Tobey did. I think he was great. But yeah, I definitely gotta see Tom Holland's. Gotta see it.
You have to see it.
Gotta see it.
Yes.
Just the little stuff I've seen that's probably gonna be him. But yeah, haven't seen it yet, so I can't really make a definitive proclamation. Do we have one more over there?
Nope.
Oh wait, did you have a second one? You had 2, right?
Yes.
Oh yeah, here I am like taking your question. I'm a jerk.
You're good. So if Adam and Shiro had a happy ending, how do you picture it playing out?
I mean, pretty much, they would pretty much just have their relationship. It's. Oh, you mean like if he was still alive when they came back and all that?
Yeah.
I think it would be really awkward in the beginning. Absolutely. I mean, you have all that time in between where somebody's been off, you thought they were going to die, you don't know if they're still going to. Like, it's just there would be so many things to kind of sort out, but at the same time, it's like you don't know if he's moved on because they were telling everybody that everybody died from the Kerberos mission. So when would he have even known that Shiro was still alive? It's you don't know. He might have moved on already. It would definitely, in my opinion, that meeting after all that time would definitely be awkward, at least in the beginning, because just time. I mean, I don't know if you've ever run into an ex after years. I guarantee you, no matter how I felt about it, because I mean, you know, when you're with that person at that time before you break up, you think that's the one, you know, and you think you're going to be with them forever and all that. And I thought I was going to be with my first 2 girlfriends forever, and I'm not. So even if I wasn't in the relationship that I'm in now, like if I ran into somebody after like 6 years, it'd be weird. It'd definitely be weird, especially on that kind of a serious breakup. So yeah, it'd be awkward.
Anybody else on this side?
Great. Okay, would you mind passing this down for me? Thank you so much.
If Shiro could have any superpower, which would he choose?
I mean, he kind of already has superpowers. He really does. He's got this ship that he can transform, and he's got like this crazy arm, and I mean, it seems as though he has like superhuman strength and reflexes. Like at the very least, he's like Captain America levels, where he's at the peak of human performance. But even more so now because he's got the arm. I mean, you don't know if that's really actually enhancing him in other ways. Like he already kind of has superpowers. But if we had to like add on to that, which would be major overpowered Shiro, which I don't mind. I mean, the Black Bayard has the whole teleportation thing. Like, I loved watching the fight scenes with Keith and the wolf when they're teleporting. Oh, it was amazing, amazing choreography, amazing. Just the visuals were incredible. I would love that. I think that'd be so cool for him to just be able to just bamf everywhere. It'd be awesome. Yeah, just like that crawler. Yeah.
All right, that is going to be our last question. Everybody,
All right.
give it up for John!
Thank you, everybody. It's a pleasure talking to you today. I've already seen a bunch of you, so I mean, I don't know if anybody still wants to go back down to the table. I know Kimberly's going to be there for a little bit longer, so I'll probably go back down there if anybody wants to, you know, chat. If you didn't get your question in, you can ask me there. And we are also both here all weekend, so if you want to talk to Kimberly, you want to talk to me, we'll be here. And we're doing a panel tomorrow.
Yes. I believe it's at earlier.
Yeah, it's earlier.
3, I think, tomorrow.
Yeah, check the schedule, don't quote us on that. But yeah, I'd love to see you there as well.
Same room.
Thank you everybody for coming to my panel.
And thank
it was
you,
fun
guys.
hanging with everybody. See ya.
We share a lot of inside jokes, and when he is directing me, you know, if I'm not getting it, he's like, remember that Barbie record you used to have? And I'm like, oh yeah, and he's like that. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's easy for us because, you know, with siblings, you kind of have your own language. But he is so much fun to work with. And we, like most kids, fought like dogs when we were kids, and we got to high school and we became friends. And if we haven't really looked back from that point, I feel really lucky to be able to work with my sibling. Are there Orville fans? Like a lot of Orville fans? Yes! So, you know, I'm the voice of the ship on the Orville, which is one of my favorite things that I'm doing right now. It's so much fun. And I was just on the set on Wednesday because my daughter had the day off from school and she had never